So shortly, I'll explain the Four Noble Truths. These are the essence of the Buddha's teaching. The first Noble Truth is the Noble Truth of dukkha. Dukkha is not only suffering as it normally is translated. Dukkha is also discontentment, not being at ease, being restless, being disturbed, anything else. Whatever is the feeling of unpleasant, that is dukkha. Be it unpleasant feeling or be it a pleasant state of mind, just being in a difficult mood we are in, that is all dukkha. The restlessness, the boredom, the suffering, the disease, mental pain and physical pain, that's all dukkha. And everybody of us has dukkha. Every human being normally has a lot of dukkha. But the problem is we don't see it enough. Normally if we have a happy moment during the day, that makes our day. We just have one happy moment and we think about it the whole day and it just leads us through the day. That is as little sukha, that is just the opposite. Happy moment. Just the opposite of dukkha. As little sukha we need, to make us happy. But most of the time, even when we're hungry, it's a form of dukkha. When we are tired, it's a form of dukkha. When we're lazy, it's a form of dukkha. And so on. So dukkha is the first noble truth. The origin of dukkha is our desire. Desire to become something, desire not to become something, desire to have something and desire not to have something. That causes all the dukkha. If you would be content with everything that is in this world, if you would content, that there are different states, that there are different seasons, that there are different people, different people are doing different things, that there is forest and there is no forest, that there is sea, there is mountains, we wouldn't need to change anything. We would be completely happy. But constantly just look at you one day, and you see how many things you need to change. This you need to change, Look at the past, how many things you have changed. After 3 or 4 years living in your apartment, you have to change the color, you have to change the furniture, you have to change the carpentry, you have to change this and you have to change that. You have to buy this additional or that additional, throw this away and throw that away, it's all changes. Because we are not satisfied, we cannot live, in the same way, without changing. Dissatisfaction, or dukkha, comes from the heart. And the desire, is that what leads to this dissatisfaction. Because our desires will never be fulfilled. Sometimes they are fulfilled and we are happy, but most of the time they are not fulfilled, and we constantly meet with the things that we don't want to happen, or we don't get what we want. And that's a form of dukkha. That's the origin. That's the cause of dukkha. The third noble truth is that there is a cessation of dukkha. That is just happy news for us. To know, we can get rid of dukkha. That's all what we need to know. And then, the fourth noble truth is that what we are concentrating on, the path that leads to the end of dukkha. The fourth noble truth, also comprises the 3 columns, that is Sila, Samadhi and Panya. Sila are the 5 precepts. 5 precepts are, in short, I train myself not to harm any living being. That's the first precept. The second precept, I train myself not to take what is not given. The third precept, I train myself not to indulge in sexual misconduct. Sexual misconduct is, being unfaithful to one's partner, having sex with subordinates, just like a teacher with a student, or a professor with a student, a parent with a child, or having sex with animals. The fourth precept is not to lie, not to use harsh and abusive speech, and for Westerners not to criticize. Yeah.
For Westerners?
Yeah. I mean, criticizing is, we use, as Westerners, we use always criticizing to put people down.
They don't do that in Asia?
Normally not. I haven't found that. There are other forms, but it's not, that is unknown. That's why I say it's for Westerners, not to criticize. I mean, because with criticizing, especially when we come from the West, we used to put others down and put ourselves above them. And that's against the precept. And the fifth, no alcohol, no drugs. Everything that makes us unmindful. So these are the 5 precepts. That is the first column of the practice that leads to the end of dukkha. So, but not only the 5 precepts are there as a path, that leads to the end of dukkha, the 5 precepts are essential. They are essential. Why? If we go against the 5 precepts, we go down. That means either we are born as an animal, we are born in the ghost realm, we are born as demons, or most of us are born in hell. That's simple. The 5 precepts are our protection. So, if we keep the 5 precepts, we have a way, to enter humankind again, or the human state again, or we also have the ability to enter the heavenly realms. So the 5 precepts are there for people who want to go to heaven, and for people who want to be able to enter back into the human form. The next part is samadhi, and that is essential, because without samadhi, without sati, developing sati, we will just walk blinded, completely blinded and dumbfolded through the world. Sati is the light, that shines into the dark. Sati is the light that makes us aware of things. Sati is trained with samadhi, with a concentration on one point. Be it anapanasati, the point of concentration is at the tip of the nose, and we know when the breath goes in and when the breath goes out. That's all what we have to do. It's very, very simple task. Just keep your attention to the tip of the nose. Sit quietly or walk Jongkro. Do walking meditation. Walk up and down and keep your attention on the breath. You can do the same thing with Buddha, just constantly mentally repeating Buddha. And whenever the mind goes away, and that it will do that constantly, we just bring the mind back to the Buddha or the tip of the nose. That's all. The stages of samadhi there are 3 stages of samadhi. There's the upachara samadhi, that means access samadhi, that means normally when our thinking stops. When there are no more thoughts, and we are feeling like entering a safe house, where we start suddenly, to feel relieved. That is what is called upachara samadhi. Upachara samadhi can have as many forms as there are existences in this world. It's uncountable. Way of experiences. So one cannot talk about the experience that a certain person will have. The experience that we have is that we feel like we're going into a safe house, and when we get out of upachara samadhi, then we leave that safe house. In that safe house, we are completely safe. We are not worried. We are not afraid. There is no future and there is no past. Because it all has to do with the thought. The moment thoughts stop, there is no future, there is no past, there is no regrets, there is no worries, there is nothing. There is just this present moment. That is the upachara samadhi. When we come out of the safe house, we feel refreshed and energetic. That is always a sign. Whenever we feel energetic and refreshed, that means we have entered, Upachara Samadhi. The next stage of Samadhi is Appana Samadhi, deep state of Samadhi. I mean, if we continue in the state of Upachara Samadhi to keep our attention to the Buddha or to the breath, I mean, the breath will stop, or the Buddha, we will not be able to think, because our mind is so concentrated that it actually cannot think anymore. It just can't think a single thought. It just doesn't work this way. And then we switch to that what knows. In the state of, when we do anapanasati, what is happening is that suddenly the knowledge arises, the breath is going to stop. And it will really stop. So, I mean, we have to prepare ourselves not to get afraid, because this fear will lead us out of appana samadhi instantly, or will not lead to appana samadhi. The breath will stop, so let it stop. Whatever happens, whatever can disappear, let it disappear. Whatever can die, let it die. And let's see what is left. And what is left is this pure knowingness. And the pure knowingness, or this appana samadhi, has no objects. That means, the whole universe disappears. First of all, our body seems to disappear. Sometimes it can happen slowly, that the body disappears slowly. The first thing, the legs and, the lower part of the body disappears, and then the upper part of the body, until there are only our nostrils left, and then even that disappears, then the sounds and feelings disappear, and then this whole universe disappears. There's nothing left, because, one-pointedness is just one-pointedness and not two-pointedness. One-pointedness doesn't know anything about another point, because that would be two-pointedness. So appana samadhi is the state, where there is just this unique knowingness. The knowingness that doesn't know of any other objects. That's all what you can say. That's all what you can say when you come out. Because the moment you go in, and the next moment you go out, the time that has passed, you don't know. Only when you observe your watch, then you will know, I've been there for 2 hours or for 3 days. Time has elapsed, space has elapsed, the whole universe has collapsed. That's appana samadhi, or, in other words, like Lungta Mahabodhi, he always said, it's a preview of Nibbana. It's a preview of Nibbana. That's what we can see, when we come out. I guarantee you the first thought that you will have, how to get back. First of all, you're completely energized. After appana samadhi, you are so powerful, your sati can go through anything. You have a power of concentration that is just like the power of the sun rays, focused in a magnifying glass. Whatever you put the sun rays on, it will set a fire. So that is appana samadhi. Then the third column of the path that leads to the end is wisdom. Investigating. What do we investigate? We investigate the 5 khandhas. That's what makes us. That's what we think is us. What do we think is us? First of all, we think this body is us. When we look in the mirror, we always constantly see ourselves. When we have feelings, we constantly think we are feeling. When we have thoughts, we constantly think we think. When we have memories, we constantly think that's our memories. And when we have consciousness, we know it's our consciousness. So these are the 5 khandhas. In other words, or repeated again, the body, and with the body comes the bodily feeling. Feeling as a group, that is the bodily feeling and the mental feeling. Then memory and association. Association is a very, very, very important part of memory. When you look at the floor, it's a floor. When you look at the mat, it's a mat. When you look at the door, it's a door. That is memory. That's a part of the memory. That's called association. I mean, you can call it any way, but just to explain it to you what it is. And then, of course, the memory of our, the memories of our past, things that we have done in the past, and so on and so on. So this is very powerful. And the other thing is thought. There are thoughts and ideas. That is the fourth khandha. And as you see, when you start to develop samadhi, that is the first big hindrance that you have to overcome, because these thoughts constantly pull you out. Of course, together with the memories of what you have done yesterday and what you're going to plan to do tomorrow. And the last khandha is consciousness. Consciousness, not in the sense of the English word, I'm conscious. No, just knowing. I mean consciousness in the sense of knowing the sense data has arrived at our sense doors, not yet knowing what kind of sense has been triggered.
Once again, please.
Something has arrived at the sense doors, not yet knowing which sense door and what has arrived. That is, vijnana. It's called in Pali. It's vijnana. I mean, in English they normally translate it as consciousness. I mean, I haven't found another word for it. Maybe sense data awareness.
And to the sense doors, are thoughts belonging to the sense doors?
No.
No. Okay. It's only the senses we're talking about.
It's all the senses. It's not only the physical senses. I mean, something sometimes you know something. It's also it also belongs in this category.
When we're talking about consciousness,
I mean, if you're not conscious, just probably deal with the opposite.
Yeah.
Once you fall unconsciousness, you don't know anything.
But
if you're conscious, the moment you're conscious, you know anything, everything.
But a thought can come up.
Yeah.
That's why it's
Yes.
related to consciousness, I guess.
Yes, probably. Not always that thought has to come up.
No, but it could.
It could.
And with
Yes.
the thought, there's I feeling.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just stick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Please. I mean, because that is going to confuse a lot of people.
Okay.
Just knowing something has arrived at the sense doors. Whatever it is, we do not know yet. I mean, the opposite of, consciousness is not being conscious. So we are actually not only not being aware, but we don't know what is happening. But there is something who knows that is conscious or not conscious. That is beyond that. And that is the citta. That knows there is consciousness and that knows that there is no consciousness. So think about that. So these are the 5 khandhas. And these 5 khandhas are us. Make us. And they're constantly rotating. One khandha is tricking the other khandha. The other khandha is tricking another khandha, and that goes fast. That goes, within the blink of the eye, we have about 3,000 mind moments. So, that is how fast it goes. No. Questions later, please. The investigation of these 5 khandhas is the important key. Because the moment we think the body is us, we think the feelings are us, we think memory and association are us, we think thoughts are us, and we even think consciousness is us. But in actuality, they don't have anything to do with us. In actuality, they are just a movie that, the moment we close our eyes, happen on our inner screen. The movie is not us. When you go to a movie, you know it's not us, but you feel, you associate with the movie, you cry with the movie, you feel with the movie, you get angry with the movie, and you even want to change the script of the movie sometimes. That's how it is. The moment we close our eyes, we see this inner movie of the 5 khandhas. And because, it's always there, when we go to the movie, we know, okay, for 2 hours it's there. When we leave, it's not anymore there. Unless we choose to see another one. And then we still think. But, this is there with us for 24 hours, and that's why we fool. That this is us. So, the investigation of these 5 khandhas is of utmost importance if we want to come to the end of dukkha. The samadhi will help us, and keeping the 5 precepts will help us. Remember, I talked about the path that leads to the end of dukkha, or the 4th noble truth, as being comprised of 3 columns. When you want to build the house of liberation, you have to use all the 3 columns. Knowing that only Panya can deliver you to the end of dukkha, is a wrong view. This doesn't work out. You have to raise all 3 columns evenly so that you can build the house of liberation. If you raise it on 2 columns, the house will, shift to either side. If you build it just on 1 column, it can fall off in any direction. So you have to raise all 3 columns at the same time. And also know, that the sila will make our samadhi better. We don't have to worry about, we don't have to regret anything, because we know from this moment on, we live within the 5 precepts. So all these worries are gone. That helps us with our samadhi. Wisdom, helps us with our samadhi. If we understand something, we are not fooled by it anymore. So we can let it go very easily, or more easily. That helps with our samadhi. But also wisdom, will help look at our sila, look at our precepts, and see, this is not right yet, this is not right yet, this I have done wrong, this I have done wrong, this I have to correct, this I have to correct. So all of these 3 also work together. So just saying, I need to raise sila, that doesn't work. Then the other things, we cannot raise the sila without sati. If we don't have enough sati, if we don't have enough awareness what is going on in our life, we don't know how much we break the silas. If we don't have enough wisdom, we don't understand the silas good enough. So these 3 things we have to progress. We have to progress them all, or make them coming along, in an equal measure. So don't think one of these things are not so important. They are all of importance. You cannot do the other you cannot do one without the other 2. It's not going to work. This you have to be very clear. You have to be very clear about it. Never forget. And there's another factor. Another factor that is normally not taught, in Asia. Because it is the basis of their, it's the basis of their livelihood. For most of the Asians. It is generosity. It's the 3 virtues that are necessary for being able to go along this path. It's a virtue of generosity. If you can't let go of material things, how can you let go of the things, of your views, of your opinions, even of your incorrectness? So this is certainly one of the biggest prerequisites. The second prerequisite of virtue is respect. If you do not respect the Buddha, if you do not respect the Dhamma, and if you do not respect the Sangha, the community of holy people, you don't even need to go the path. The Lord Buddha, there was no more intelligent person in the last 5,000 years. than the Lord Buddha. He saw everything of it. The two other people, his right and his left hand, they had half of the wisdom of the Lord Buddha. And now we are coming, that was Sariputta in Moggallana. Now we are coming to the ordinary people who have not even 1% of the wisdom of the Lord Buddha. Whatever he said, whatever he laid down, he knew why he said it and why he laid down. He always had his reasons. He saw the future 5,000 years ahead. Or maybe even 10,000 years ahead. He saw the past, millions, billions of lives. He saw that he wasn't the first Buddha. He saw that there were, 23 Buddhas before him. Each of them he saw their teaching. That wasn't different. The Dhamma is always the same. But their magnitude, their age of the teaching, how long did the teaching last? He saw it, everything. So whatever he taught us is, there's nothing that has more wisdom. So we can't think of ourselves that we can step, and that is normally happening in the West, that we can step on the Buddha and say, oh yes, he lived 2,500 years ago. Things have changed. Times have changed. Things have changed. But one thing that the Lord Buddha was talking about has not changed. The Dhamma has not changed. The kilesas have not changed. Just the things that the kilesas use. 2,500 years ago there wasn't a Sprite can. So, but there was water to drink. There were fruit juice to drink. There were other things to drink. There wasn't a computer, but there were other things to do. So these things have changed, and that's why we think we are cleverer than people, 100 years ago. We are not. The things for the kilesas, the play toys, I call them the toys of the kilesas, have changed. But the kilesas themselves have not changed. The kilesas of greed, hatred and delusion have not changed. So don't even think that you're clever, that you do not need to follow this or do not need to follow that the Lord Buddha taught us. Because then you will never be able to make it. The Dhamma as it was laid out by the Lord Buddha, and it is as it is still preserved in the Dhamma tradition or in the forest tradition here in Thailand, is still the Dhamma that leads to the end of dukkha. And it is as lived as 2,500 years ago. Of course, things have changed. There are cabinets that haven't been, cabinets made of metal, that haven't been there at that time. But they had other things to keep their things, to store it. And the third thing, the third virtue that we need is the virtue of gratitude. If we can't be grateful for the things that are given to us, how can we be grateful for the Dhamma that we will encounter? How can we be grateful for the things that we will encounter, for the things that are given to us? When you live in the monastery, everything is given to you. How can you not be grateful? If we are ungrateful, if we think this is our right, we are not going the path. These three virtues are a special prerequisites for people who come from the West, It's not that we didn't used to have them. 200 years ago, we still had them within our countries. And some of them, are still, to a certain degree practiced. But when you look at the Asian countries, it's still practiced. The children respect their parents. When the parents say something that, they cannot get out of it. When our parents, say something, Who are you? I studied at the university. What do you know of the world? That's how we react towards our parents. Completely out of respect and completely out of gratitude what they have done for us for 20 years. Gratitude towards the teachers, gratitude towards our parents, gratitude towards our spiritual teachers. They have taught us everything that we have to know to live this life. For 15, 16 or 20 years or 24 years when we went to university. They have enabled us, to make a livelihood. How can we not be grateful? Are we so arrogant and conceited? When we climbed out of the womb, we didn't know anything. We didn't know how to shit, we didn't know how to digest, we didn't know anything. We didn't know how to talk, we didn't know how to walk. Who taught us all these things? We didn't know how to think, when we went to school, thinking was taught to us. The language was taught to us. How can we not be grateful? But these things are lacking, and to a certain degree we have to develop them. If we see, if we look at ourselves and see what virtue is still lacking, rush, and develop it. And the interesting part, when I was talking about the silas, I said, keeping the 5 silas, can guarantee us a life as a human being or going to heaven. If we don't have these 3 virtues, we never will be able to go to heaven. That is a prerequisite for going to heaven. And when we go the way out, now understand, when we go the way out to the end of dukkha, we are going above the heaven realm. So you see the importance of it. Can you understand the importance of it? It is, you might look down on it or you might frown on it. It's old saying. But what is that to do? But I tell you from my own experience, and tell you from the experience of other Thai teachers who have Western students. This is something that is most essentially missing in Westerners. Most of the Westerners. Some of them have it. And that's why they can't progress. The moment you come to a certain stage in your practice, and for years you cannot progress, because one of the things are lacking. It can be sila, but most of the time it will be generosity, respect, gratitude are lacking. So you cannot transgress. Because when you think going along this path, what is the path leading us to the end of dukkha, lita? To Sodapanna. When we think about Sodapanna, he will not go down to the lower realms. So he will be either reborn in heaven or back on the human realm. So he has to have these 3 prerequisites. So we don't get them just by entering Sodapanna. We don't get this virtue. Without the virtues, our Lord Buddha cannot be reborn. Our Lord Buddha cannot achieve Buddhahood. So he has to develop the 10 perfections to get a Buddha. And that takes a long, 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 long time. This is essential, I talk about, and I felt today that it was necessary to stress it. Please, as practitioners who come from the West, keep that in mind. Also, as some of the Asian countries, are going to decline in these aspects as well. When you go to Bangkok, you don't find too many things there preserved as well. If you go to the Isan region, the northeast region, these things are still, in effect in daily village life. So it's everything, in this world is in decline. The more it becomes globalized, the more the Western influence, comes there, and the people see it. Of course, if we are generous, we lose out. So So these are the Four Noble Truths. And if you understand it, please. I mean, we are here, we are gathered here. And because of our merit, we can come here. Not everybody can come. Because of our merit, we have gathered in the past. I mean, because of our merit, because of people's merit, they were born at the times of the Lord Buddha. Because of bigger merit, they were able, to enter the sasana, to enter the religion together with him, to become a monk or become a nun under the Lord Buddha, or to become a disciple of the Lord Buddha as a layperson. And that has only to do with merit. And one of the big things, of this merit, to be born with at the times of the Lord Buddha and become a disciple of the Lord Buddha, no matter if it's a monk or nun or if it's a layperson, is respect, utmost respect for this teaching or for his teacher. If you're respectless, I mean, you will never be able to meet a great teacher. Showing respect, showing this is, I mean, it's a necessity to find a great teacher. I mean, if we have done it, I mean, we just need to look at our own life, how much of this respect we have, how much of this gratitude we have, how much of generosity we have. We will see it. And we will see, where we need to mend it, where we need to foster one of these virtues, to progress along the path. And I guarantee you, when you come to a point, where you have the feeling nothing is going to progress, I mean, you can be certain that it lacks, that there is a lack, in most of the times, in these three virtues, sometimes it can be in the silas, just in the sila, just in the 5 precepts. Now let's talk about other things. I talked about, these 3 virtues, being a prerequisite. We cannot enter heaven if you don't have them, if you don't have enough of them. We cannot be born in the heavenly realms if you don't have them. So I mean, they are prerequisite, not only the 5 precepts, but these 3 virtues are also prerequisite. I mean, if you have enough of them, just like if you have saved enough money, then we can go on vacation. If we haven't saved enough money, we cannot go on vacation. We still can live, as a human being, but we cannot go on vacation. I mean, that's how you can view. The most important thing, I mean, for us as practitioners, is sati. Being this awareness, being aware of what is going on, what I'm doing, why am I doing, and what is the result of my doing. That is the sati. That is the most important thing if you want to go the path of practice. Another thing that we need to have to understand is karma. What is karma? Karma is cause and effect. I mean, whatever we do, whatever we think, whatever we speak, will come back to us. If we do good, good will come back to us. If we do bad, bad will come back to us. I mean, you can put it bluntly, just as Jesus, if you kill by the sword, you will be killed by the sword. If you kill other people, you will be killed by other people. Or you will be crashed now in the airplanes, or, in all these other disasters. You will be killed. Karma is the law of the universe. There is nothing that goes over this karma. There is no being in this universe that does not have to obey to this law of karma. Whatever we do will come back to us. So that's why in English we have this saying, don't do unto others what you don't want others to do unto you. And if every person in this world would live according to this saying, this world would be paradise. Would be absolutely paradise. I mean, there would be nobody harming any other people. There would be nobody stealing things, I mean, it would just be paradise. Because we don't do unto other people what we don't like other people to do unto you. And that is exactly karma. What you sow is what you reap is another version of this karma. If you sow potatoes, I mean, every farmer understands this law. If he sows potatoes, he will reap potatoes. If he sows wheat, he will reap wheat. The problem is the time difference. The moment he puts a seed into the earth, it will take a certain amount of time to bear the fruit. Now think about salad, I mean that the time is very short, a few weeks. Think of other vegetables, the time is relatively short. Think of potatoes, it's relatively long. Now think of our doings, Think about, people, are often mistaken and say, I mean, he's such a bad person. He kills off, so many people. Why does he have a long life? Because these kind of sins will not take place, the fruits of this kind of deeds will not take place in this life, but will come in the next life. Or in other lives. Maybe not the next life, maybe the life after the next life. In 2 lives, in 3 lives, in 4 lives. So I mean, just like, certain things ripe fast and certain things ripe slow, so is it with our karma. When you say bad words, when you look down on other people, it might not come back, within the next 20 years, but it can come back within the next 30 years, or certainly will come back in the next life. This law of karma is something that we have to, at least to understand somewhat, so that we do not do bad things. Just live by the principle and don't do unto others what you don't want others to do unto you, and I mean you will be safe. Karma is of utmost importance. It is the law that governs everything. And from that point you see, whatever done, whatever seed you put in, if it's a seed of killing somebody, the fruit will come. There is no way to avoid this fruit. If you rob somebody, the fruit will come. There is no way. The moment you put the seed into it, it will grow. You don't know when. So whatever we experience now, at this moment, whatever, is the result of our previous action. Be it from this life, if it's salad, it grows fast, we can still experience it. Some of the things we still can experience in this life. But most of it is from the last lives. So the time, our age, our body, our appearance, our status, are all karma from the previous lives. They are not things that we have attained in this life. Remember this well. It's difficult. No? Because we can't see the previous life and we cannot see the next life. That's why we don't believe. Don't be short-sighted. I mean, if somebody, the Lord Buddha says about karma, for instance, just give you a few examples. A person who is not harming other beings, a person who doesn't take lives, he will have a longevity. That means he will have in his next life, he will have a long life. Whatever he does then in his long life, will determine the karma of his next life. If he starts, going bad, and start killing people off in his long life, then of course, he has to experience that in other lives, and he will have short lives. So people, who have a short life in this life, are takers of lives. Have in their previous lives always taken lives. A person who has been robbed, will be, has been a robber in his previous life. It all happens to us. If we are lied upon constantly, that's what we saw in the past. For instance, what did the Lord Buddha say about, lying? If we start lying and lying and lying, and can't even refrain from lying, what is happening? We stink out of our mouth in the next life. So people don't get close to us. They don't want to listen to our lies. And that's the turning point, when we start to get better again. Person who are generous, will meet wealth in their next life. That's the teaching of the Lord Buddha. So the more generous we are, the more wealthy we are in the next life, not in this life. That is the law of karma. If you constantly, if you save up from the time of 20 and you start working, to the end, when you're 60, every month, you put $100 on your account, or 100 euros on your account. At the end, you will have lots of money. If you only start with 55 or 59, putting every month, you will have very little money. So this is generosity. Generosity will lead to wealth. Being born in a rich family, or, even being born in a poor family. But, instantly, the moment you're becoming adult, you will become rich. By some coincidence. People say, this is a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. Being rich, being poor, being smart, being stupid. It's not a coincidence. It's karma. What leads to stupidity? When you think, now in this life we are smart, so normally we should be smart in our next life. Now the smart people think, okay, I can drink alcohol. So he drinks alcohol, he continues destroys his smartness. So, in his next life he will be stupid. Much more when you take drugs. That's the result of our karma. We don't see it instantly. Of course alcoholics will see it, have you ever listened to a drunk person? How intelligent he expresses himself? Huh? If you know that, why do you drink alcohol? Why do you take drugs, A drug person, a drug person even doesn't say a thing, He can't even express himself. Huh? He's just in a mental, mental crazy. Huh? So people, who do that, will have to face the consequences of their action. And that is karma. Karma, Claudio lives in the mountains, the Swiss Alps. So he knows it the best. The moment he walks up, the mountain on a mountain path when there is snow. The moment he is careless, and there's a stone trickling down, it will cause an avalanche. Now think about this avalanche not only taking half a day, like it normally does, until it's down in the valley. Now think about it taking 100 years. So in the next life you come by, in this valley, suddenly this avalanche crushes you. Huh? That's exactly what's happening with karma. It takes some time, to develop it. Sometimes it takes a very, very long time. For instance, consider the example of, a farmer, plants an apple tree. From the seed to the first harvest of these apples, it takes nearly 7 years, yes. Sometimes 6 years. Yeah. So, but then each year you will harvest it for a while. And there are forms of this karma. They take a very long time to ripen, but once they ripen every life. For a certain amount of time. I mean, to understand karma, the Lord Buddha said there will be only a few people. At this time, there were only a few arahants who understood the law of karma. I mean, I just give you a basic view of the karma. I mean, you can read it in some of the suttas. Sometimes he says, he talks about, rich. He talks about also beauty. I mean, we always admire beauty. What leads to beauty? To give yourself to others. To serve others. And he even specifies it, If you just serve with your hands, if you're a servant, and you just use your hands, in your next life you have beautiful hands. If you serve with your whole body, your whole body will become beautiful. Isn't it amazing? It's to take, to put other people, in front of us, Thinking other people are more important. That leads to outside beauty. What they do in this life with beauty, that's a completely different thing. They sell it, They sell it off, and get rich, Or get famous, or whatever. So they lose that quality that they have, the quality that leads to beauty. They will lose in the next life. Just like wealthy people become stingy, they will lose the quality, of generosity that leads to another wealthy life. So it will always be a turning point. There will be no constantly steady up. In this life you keep the silas, you don't know what is happening in the next life. If you continue or declining. There is no guarantee, except the guarantee of somebody who enters the stream, that he goes upwards. Somebody who enters the stream, the Lord Buddha says, or the Lord Buddha teaches, within 7 lives, he will come to the end of the world. That's the only guarantee. That's the only person who is guaranteed to develop. A worldling. He can develop, until he can decline. Then he can develop again, then he can decline. It's up to our kilesas. It's up to greed and hate and delusion that rule us. Constantly saying something that is not along the truth, to deceive us. And they're deceiving us all the time. Telling always, all the time, what is happening to us, every moment. Now I'm feeling good, now I'm feeling bad, now I'm feeling thirsty, now I'm feeling hungry, now I'm feeling... Saying this person has done this to me, that person has done this to me. That is not Dhamma, that's a kilesa. Whatever is happening to us, it's a result of our own karma. And just from this short or few examples of karma, try to get an understanding, because that is the only thing that rules this universe. A person who kills in this life, the first thing, first of all, he will not be very happy if he kills other people. That's the first thing. That's the first result of karma. The second result of karma, he will go to hell for a certain amount of time. If you kill one person, maybe he goes to hell for 100 years. I don't know what the times are. If he kills several hundred people, he will be in hell for a long time. But then, when he comes out of hell, when he has washed his, when he has washed his karma away, he will have to experience for the third time the karma of his action. He will always have a short life. He's born as a human being, he will have a short life. He's born as a human being, he will have a short life. Nearly as much as people as he killed. I mean, it's understandable. I mean, we have taken the person a chance to live on. So, we will be taken the chance to live on. I mean, it's quite logical. I mean, that's what's so fascinating about Buddhism. I mean, there's no magic behind it, it's just logic. It's very reasonable. It's cause and effect. Whatever happens is cause and effect. There's no magic happening. Whatever we do will come back to us. We can be guaranteed of that. If we do good, good will come back to us. If we do bad, bad will come back to us. That is the guarantee. That's the only guarantee we can have. So strive, and this will be my last word. Strive, to do the practice. Strive to get to a point of non-return. I mean, to a point, in your life, where you enter the street, at least. Where at least, in this life, I went to a point, where I can continue on. A person who enters the stream doesn't fall down in the hell realm. He doesn't be born as an animal. I mean, he doesn't go to the lower realm. That's a guarantee. But of course, he has to have this virtue, to be able to be guaranteed that. He has to develop this insight. He has to have the virtue. I mean, he has to have to keep the precepts. And don't think that you can get away with anything, I mean, the karma, I mean, it's just a law. It's not somebody, sitting at the end of your life and judges you. It's you yourself who judges. Because you yourself know what you have done wrong, and that's where you go. You go, if you kill, if you kill, or if you have sexual misconduct, or if you drink alcohol, I mean, you go first of all to hell. And then think of the second. But if you're generous in this life, just like with the fruits of killing, there are 3 fruits, just like with generosity, there are 3 fruits. The moment you give something, you will feel happy. When you die, you will be born in a wealthy family, and you receive everything back. That's the 3rd fruit. So don't be oblivious to these facts. Take these facts into account, and decide for yourself what you want to do with your life. If you decide, you want to go the good path, or you want to go to the path that leads to the end of dukkha, and just want to make sure. I mean, you know what you have to do. I just told you very briefly. I told you about these options that you have in your life. Because there is no guarantee that the next life you will be a practitioner again. Next life, because of your practice, you enjoy all these fruits of your practice. I mean, people just love you, people accept you, people respect you, and then you become bad. It just flips around. Just like with a wealthy person, it flips around, he suddenly becomes stingy, he sees all this wealth. Or a beautiful person, suddenly becomes arrogant, just the opposite of what actually led to beauty. So don't think, it's always, you actually can talk, about a sinus wave, You're at the top, then you're on the decline, and then you're at the bottom, and then you're slowly coming up again. No matter in what life it is. Yeah, I mean, that's like a sinus wave, it's endless. There's no start and there's no end. Unless you find, the point, where it goes through 0 and then jump on. Of course, unless you find a teacher. Or unless you find the teaching. I mean, it depends. That also depends on your karma. But I wanted to end before I answer the question. So I mean that is my how to say it. I place it in your heart. Think about it. What you want to do. I just gave you a short and brief explanation of the Buddha's teaching. Now, ask yourself, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? Okay, and with this I end the talk.